Welcome back, Pride Nation. We back at it again, talking Detroit Lions football, and I'm excited. I hope my message was heard. If it wasn't, I'm sorry. I thought it was, but it's the same as always. Please reach out and get assistance. Technical difficulties could have been the issue with that, but who knows? All right. Good people. It says no audio. I can't believe I gave that beautiful message and it didn't have no audio. It's simply put, people, I want you here. You matter to me. I love you. I don't gotta know you to love you. I know that you breathe like me. I know that you bleed like me. I know that you share emotions like me. I know that you're happy like me. You're sad like me. You're frustrated like me. I know that you get anxiety like me. You get depression like me. I love you. And all I'm asking for you to do is simply go out and get help with 3 numbers, 988. Sorry the audio didn't kick in. Did not know that was the case, but hey, we here. People, we got a few days before some things get cracking. And so I decided to shift gears a little bit. Yesterday's show was about the hype train. Today's show is about how to build a successful team and to build on the foundation. And I'll continue to do this until I can show you how we're going to build this winner. Now, let's see who I got in the building with me because I'm going to have some fun today. We got my man Detroit Lions Talk with Jon Kapler in the building. Looney Tunes in the building with me. Michael Kidd is in the building. Giovanni Lyons in the building. My homeboy Mars Landis says, sup though, bro. He's in the building with me. Perry Ball is in the building with me. We got that fan man in the building with me. We got Billy Venable in the building with me. Hatterhouse is in the building with me. My other twin, who is always on standby to check my ass in case I get a little bit out of line or outrageous. My man Anthony from Roar the Lions UK. Shout out to the family. We got my man Curt Steele in the building. What up, though? Right? We got my man Curt Steele in the building. And let's see, we got Chris Watts in the building. John Jones is in the building. Makai Holt is in the building. If you in here, throw it in the chat so I can shout you out. I want you to know that you matter. Your name matters. Your voice matters. And everything else is in there. All right, people. I'm in such a good mood. I gotta hit on all the quick news. I'm all about vibes today. I'm all about feeling good today because I'm feeling good. You feel me? Let's talk, people. All right, listen. For those who ain't been keeping up, Lions have released tight end Zylstra. I hope I said his name right this time. Zylstra. You know, he gets hurt and he's out of here. It's disappointing because I know injuries are a part of it, but that's how my career came up short. Because somebody in practice decided that, you know, they need to make a certain type of tackle. And when I heard that he got tackled low, which resulted in him having a significant knee injury, it's a little frustrating. However, the reality is, at the end of the day, injuries happen. Okay? And this right here presents an opportunity for somebody else to step up. Yeah, he's got waves, but they're going to put him on practice squad. He ain't just out there in the wind. Mark my words. But they want to get themselves some room and stuff, so I get it. Also, I heard about the fight, or not really a fight, but the little pushing, shoving match between a particular cornerback and Jameson Williams. Don't care. Now that I got that out the way, let me get to the more important stuff. Because it really doesn't make any sense. All right? It really doesn't make any sense. People, we've heard all the conversations. You've watched all the YouTube videos. You've seen it in the media. The hype train. I told you yesterday, I'm the conductor. I'm doing it a little bit different today because today you get to come on first class of the train. This is where the elite of the elite get to come. We get to talk about the foundation. And the Detroit Lions, since Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have come here, have laid a foundation. A foundation that is designed to succeed. A foundation that is designed to get wins and change the narratives of this team. Shout out to my people coming in, my Cap Ice Codes, my Detroit son, Big Wheels, my Ray Andersons. Shout out to my people coming up in the building. My D Grams in the building. What up? The Lions simply did something that I had to pay more attention to. They simply did the thing that I've preached for years upon years upon years, and that is look at your history and learn from it. Examine the history. Scrutinize it. Ask yourself questions about the history. Let's have a little pop quiz, ladies and gentlemen. I need your help on this one. Okay? Can y'all tell me the last time the Detroit Lions has made the playoffs? Talk to me, chat. When was the last time the Detroit Lions made the playoffs? It's important for you to know this answer. Google it if you can't. If you can't remember it, Google it. When was the last time the Detroit Lions went to a playoff game? I want you to look it up. All right. There we go. Answers coming in the building. Answers is coming in the building. Now that we got that, I need one more thing from you. What was the last time before that the Lions went to the playoffs? See, I'm telling you, there's madness. There's a lot of madness going on for me, and I'm going to show you what this all means. I'm going to show you why I'm asking this, okay? I want you to join me on the journey of the Lions looking at their history and saying to themselves, all right, we can do this a little bit differently. We can do this a little bit differently. But I need to do it with the idea that I respect the history. Because what I found was something that really, honestly, never even crossed my mind. It never even got to a point for me to say it until I saw it. All right, we got 2014. All right, last time. Give me the last time before that. That's the last one I want you to do. I want to break it all into a perspective. You see, there is something that I think we miss. We look at all the little things. We try to analyze everything. We try to break it down. We try to dig deep and dive into a lot of this information and treat it like, oh, this is what's happening. And it's happening because of this. Oh, this is happening because of that. Or this person's going to play here. This person's going to play there. These things that we look at all spell out something. And the Lions have said, you know what? I got to respect the history. The Lions have said, you know what? I got to just look at where I came from. I can't look at anything else. I had to look at where I came from. To my people in the chat who working with me and rocking with me, I appreciate you. I'm going to get into it. Each one of them years that I had you guys look up and search, I wanted you to do this because I wanted you to understand how all of those years have a lot of correlating information. How all of those years led to something. And it was always built around a foundational piece. It's always built around something that foundationally was what they said we're going to put our attention on. And this is how we're going to get it done. Okay? Now, granted, many people are going to argue, well, Luke, none of this stuff correlates. None of this stuff makes sense. This is not necessarily one for one. I'm not looking for a one for one. I'm looking for a picture that allowed you to see the history. So let me bring up the history. The history that many of us like to forget. The history that many of us treat as if though it's not valid. Let me bring up the history. All right. This right here is the last year's Detroit Lions team. Okay. And this information that I'm giving you is very vital because there's things in here that if you look at in the screenshot, a snapshot of it, you get to see some things. Clearly, points for, they were ranked 5th in the league. Yards, 4th. In terms of the defense, they were 28th in points for. And in terms of yards, they were dead last. They truly struggled against the run, They were 29th in rushing yards and 21 in rushing attempts. And for the most part, it was a problem. But let's talk about the history. Let's go to 95 first. Now, for the people who don't know, they might say, well, Luke, why are we going this far back? It's because everything about history tells us about the present and the future. And in that year, there were foundational pieces. You see, also in that year, they started out 1-4. And the Lions from last year started out 1-6. And that team turned it around, as you can see here, and did a very similar thing. Went on a run late in the year. And ironically, the Lions did a similar thing and went on a run late in the year as well. Now, you may be still wondering, okay, well, look, that's small. That's not big. It's not that. I mean, come on, bro. You're not giving me nothing. I know, but the history tells me we got to look at something. In that year, the Detroit Lions also had a moment that they added some very key players in 95. I went all the way through the entire draft history because I had to see it for myself to see if I was tripping. Their first pick at pick 20 was Luther Ellis. They then took a tight end. They then took Stephen Boyd, a linebacker, and so forth and so on, right? And you're saying to yourself, well, Luke, what does this got to do with anything? Well, they already were coming into the season thinking we got to strengthen the defense and add more weapons for the offense. And as you can see, they didn't have many picks, but a lot of the picks that they went after were offensive driven. They were trying to maintain the offense. They were trying to still bring the defense up to par, and that draft made a difference. But what did they got to do with 95 and 2022? Was simply each one of those teams had a foundational piece. And in this case, it was Luther Ellis. Luke, that got nothing to do with us. Yes, it does, because we just drafted what's supposed to be a foundational piece in Jack Campbell. Oh, Luke, but we already got Aiden. I know, but they still ran on us with Aiden because we didn't have the best of the best linebackers. We didn't have good linebacking play. And yet they identified the problem and addressed it with the draft pick. Luke, okay, you reaching. Fair enough. Join me as I go to the next year. Let's talk about 2011. 2011, the Detroit Lions were 4th in points for, 5th in yards. They were 23rd in point for in terms of the defense and 23rd in yards. Well, Luke, I don't get it. You know, what do they have in common with this one? Well, this Lion team started out hot. Oh, yes, they started out hot. Then they had a few fizzles and got back hot. And then they go into a game against a team that many people never gave them a chance to beat. Right? But it was something that happened very particular about that year. You know, that 2011 season. When we go up and we take a look at that 2011 season draft, the draft that they had for that year, when we go and take a look at that, let's look at again the foundational pieces. You go out, you add another D tackle. You're still trying to add more defensive help. At this point, they are already doing some work. They had just took Ndamukong Suh. They had just took Javid Best. And then they turn around, they take Nick Fairley. They take Titus Young, who I think is one of the most underrated receivers that we've had on our squad. Short-lived, you know, in terms of his abilities, but it was short-lived. They did also invest in a running back to go along with Javid Best, who was having some injury problems. And you may be wondering, well, Luke, I mean, none of this makes a difference, but it does, because at this point, they were still trying to strengthen the defense. Again, and you look at the past season, and everybody can argue that the weakest part was the defense. And what did they do in terms of the offseason? They went out and added more secondary help. They went out and added more help to the linebackers. They're trying to add more help to the D-line. They have said, you know what, we're going to do that. And they did that while still adding more talent to the offense. Luke, there's still a reach. I don't see the correlation. Well, there's still something that you're missing, because in 2014, the Detroit Lions offense was pretty much meh. It was 22nd in the points for, 19th in yards, but it was third in points for. And they gave it the third least amount of points, and they were second to give it the second least amount of yards. And that year, the Lions came out They beat a Giants team that people said they wasn't going to beat. Y'all may forget that, but they said that. They come out, they have off and on, but then get onto another streak. Well, Luke, what's so special about this? Okay, this is just 2024. 2014. What's so special about this? Well, that particular year, they was able to shut down the run and stuff like that. But let's look at that 2014 draft. Who was on the team from the draft that year? And what do you know? They sit there and realize, hey, we need some help. And so they take a tight end, Eric Ebron. Yes, I know this is not the most popular conversation, but they come back and they take Kyle Van Noy, who I believe is one of the most grossly negligent use of a player in my entire life, but it doesn't matter. They get a steal with Trevor Swanson. Remember poor man's Nevin Lawson? That dude left the league with 1 interception. Shameful. They added Larry Webster. They added another D tackle. They brought in TJ Jones. They did things to try to fully strengthen another side of the ball. And in this case, it was the offense. And again, we're just looking at the foundation of it all. See, the success of these teams were built on their focus into the foundation. The foundation, which was going to be what they used to push them forward. And then we force ourselves towards 2016. And the offense is still pretty much meh. 24 points, 21 in yards, 13th in points for, 18th in yards. And again, they're still able to kind of do the stopping. But guess what I realized that I did not see in all of those moments where they had success? Every one of these years, they were in the middle of the pack in terms of defense. Minus 2011. They were in the middle of the pack or higher in all of that time. Well, Luke, you said you're talking about the foundation. I am. The foundation is the offense. And they did things to strengthen the offense so that it can aid itself with the defense. And the defense is going to be the complementary purpose of it all. Why does this all matter? In all of those years that they did those mashups, there were games where people never gave them a chance. Another opening day game against the Colts, they were supposed to lose that game. They were not the favorites. Yet they won. And now you look at another situation with the now current season where the Detroit Lions are now going to go against a Kansas City Chiefs game. A team that people said that we should not beat. A team that they said we won't beat. Right? Right? The same people who told us don't look at this, the same people who said don't pay attention, don't see the foundational piece. So the first step to building on foundation is to make sure that not only that you lay it on a good slot of land, that you smoothed everything out, but you checked it for flaws and you fixed every flaw you had in it. And the offense actually had flaws. You had a receiver who's going to be out for the first 6 weeks. We'll bring in Marvin Jones. We're going to add an Antoine Green. We'll go and bring in a Denzel Mims to get him a little tester and see what's going on. We're going to do things to try to work the flaws out on the offense. We'll add another running back who's going to be healthy and still give us dynamic running like Swift. We'll go out and add a tight end who can find space and then get it done like we did when we moved on from TJ Hockenson. And all these things, they're telling you we're working on foundational pieces. Right? And so when I look at all of these things, of the foundation, it starts to lend itself a very simple formula. Success. Success in the form of complementing one side of the ball that can still be complemented while focusing on the foundation, while building this team up in a way that allows for it to have success. Now, many people may think I've lost my mind. Many people may argue none of this stuff correlates. But let me just show you. Let me just show you what it is. All right. Take a look at this 2022 season. Because the first thing you will notice is right down here and how they were versus the run. And you look down here, they still give up a lot of big plays in the passing game. And they say, you know what? We're going to add as much as we can to this secondary. We're going to design more clever blitzes. I've seen some training camp footage where I'm like, whoa, what was that? What was that? I'm seeing some things in training camp and in practice where people have literally basically said, if it's coming down to my family, your family eating, I guess yours going to starve. The whole iron sharpens iron thing is lending itself very well. You're getting people put on their back. You're getting people knocked out. You're getting forced fumbles and stuff. The focus is so much there. It all starts with foundational pieces. It all starts with building off of the foundation. You look at this team being so close to the end in terms of their defense and points for and yards. And many of you want to just focus on the last 10 games, but the reality is we go by the whole entire Monty. You're going to buy apple pie, you don't just sit there and say, hey, I'll buy that pie again because the crust was good. The filling, terrible. Crust, amazing. No. You want the whole thing to come together. And when I look at the Detroit Lions and how they went about doing this, even when you go to, like, say, 2016, you look at foundational pieces, a tackle, a D tackle, a center who's now back. They went out and took a safety who they tried to play at linebacker, but more help on the offense. They continue to show that in their higher end draft picks that they wanted foundational pieces. Now, it's weird because you see this, many people don't want to point it out. They don't want to say anything about it. They don't like this, right? But all of this stuff lends itself to our history. And the Lions looked at it and said, you know what? Last year, we could do some things different. Last year, we could make some adjustments. We could have did this a little bit better. We could have did that a little bit better. Or maybe we did this so bad, we're just going to scrap that. Now, the Lions decided to bring this a little bit differently. Because now they said, hey, the last time we went through the history, which is the other thing I wanted to point out, from 2016, let me get on down here. What do you see that's very interesting down here? Particularly starting with the running back room. You had a pass catching guy in Theoretic. You had another investment in Dwayne Washington. Zach Zenner was your somewhat power guy. Your north and south dude, right? You drafted Amir Abdullah because you thought he was going to be shifty. You brought in Justin for a sec so he could be complimentary. You did these things. Your receiving core had pieces. You had Golden Tate. You had Marvin Jones and Anquan Bolden. You had pieces. Let's go and look at 2014. Foundationally looking. You had Drake Bell, your power back. You bring in your other shifty guy and Reggie Bush, a guy who can what? Catch up the backfield and run between the tackles. Sounds like Jahmyr Gibbs. Drake Bell, David Montgomery. The complimentary part of it is so interesting that it scares me. And yes, you obviously had Calvin Johnson, the Hall of Famer, and all that stuff. I get it. But no, you had these other guys who stepped up big those years. You had other guys who came and performed and gave you some type of help in perfection. But let's go back and look at 2011. I want you to see how, and I want you to do this with the same mindset of thinking about who is on your team. Because in 2011, you had a job at best. You had a Maurice Morris. You went out and added a power back in Kevin Smith. You did all these things to strengthen it. But then you had an offense. And just think about this. This was your receiving core. Think about this. You had Nate Burleson, Calvin Johnson, Titus Young was your slot receiver. Think about that. You had games where you saw pieces that mimicked our team now. Well, Luke, but we didn't go far. I know, we didn't have coaching. See, coaching is the missing piece in all of this. Coaching, and a coach who can demand and have players respond, what was missing from all of this. You go down to 95. come on, take a look. Yeah, you had Barry Sanders, but your quarterback was Scott Mitchell. It wasn't nothing to write home about, but he was there. He showed up, I guess. I think he participated. Look at your receivers. Johnny Morton, Brett Perryman. Herm Moore was still there. But Luke, I'm still having a hard time seeing how this correlates. Because now when you start to really dig, you start to go on down and look at the defensive side of the ball from 95. You look at the defensive side of the ball that your team got right now. You start to see certain things. Like a linebacker and Chris Spellman, who end up taking over certain things and being present for you. You go out and get a Jack Campbell, who's supposed to kind of fill a similar role, right? You go out and you still have a safety in Benny Blaze. And for people start going and say, well, we don't got a Benny Blaze. It's called Branch. Branch has no problem sticking his neck in there and trying to knock your block off. That's the word I'm going to use. He doesn't have any problems being disruptive. I even seen him practice with Kirby Joseph want to lay some wood now. Tracy Walker don't seem to be a way to shy from it. But you had pieces. And now all the pieces never made sense in general. Many of these names, most of us forget about. Most of us don't think about it. I bet any amount of money, if you were to go back to 95 and tell somebody, hey, we had a guy on our team literally named Henry Thomas, who had 10 and a half sacks, you would have called me nuts. That's a D tackle. That's a D tackle. You would have called me nuts. Or look, how did that have to do anything else? Go through every year. Join me through the journey. Y'all remember Stephen Tollett? You remember when we added him? You already had Levy. You added Stephen Tollett. You added Justin Durant. And to be honest with you, if you really want to look at it, Justin Durant and Malcolm Rodriguez, two speedy guys, I'm pretty much saying. DeAndre Levy. Stephen Tollett, you got your guys, you got your pass rushers. You remember when we added Chris Houston? That was a guy we added in free agency. You had the safety in Louis Delmas. You added guys like Kyle Vanderbosch to the line. These are things that we don't look at, don't remember, and don't want to. But they all lend themselves to help us. They all did things. They're not the names that you believe are always going to show up, but they were there. You go to 2014. Come on down to and take a look at it. You add Tahir Whitehead. Alex Anzalone. Still had DeAndre Levy, right? But you added people like Glover Quin. And you may be wondering, well, what's the comp there? Y'all don't think I forgot about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. A guy who comes in with a vocal point, who can lead them and put people in the right position. And he was moving all around. He'd be over in the slot, be over in the box. I mean, this dude was all over. You had that type of help. You had that with James. I'm not going to play with his name. Not going to play with his name. But you added players that gave you something. You had a George Johnson who can give you something. You had people that can give you something. The foundation was laid in such a way that it gave you something. Now, again, I'm giving you this history because I'm telling you that the history lends itself to something else. All the history is the same, minus one piece. The guy that was leading it, the head coach. The guy who was leading, the head coach. Pay attention to the history. We only looking at playoff years. Your linebackers weren't always lit. It wasn't. Your D-line wasn't always setting it off. It wasn't. You look at a lot of these teams, there was a lot of players who were role players who got it done. But the person leading them all the time didn't have it fully. Let's look at one more year for reference. Then I'll let y'all come in and tell me how crazy I am. 2016 come. You had a guy that I thought was absolutely trash in Tavon Wilson. But you never lost Glover Quin. You never lost Raphael Bush. And you had these people who can come in and give you something. You still had a Darius Slay. But y'all remember Kyrie Hyder? Y'all don't remember that? When Kyrie Hyder took off and exploded? Does that sound like James Houston? A guy that came out of nowhere that nobody was counting on. Nobody talked about through preseason, or nobody talked about through training camp. I didn't hear none of that. That dude led our team in sacks that year. Kyrie Hyder. Remember that? You had an A'Shawn Robinson. They still added to his talent. You brought in a Devin Taylor. You tried multiple different people trying different things. You added a free agent D tackle in Haloti Ngata. You remember Anthony Zettel? I want you to look at this, because this also lends itself to the same old Lion fans trope, where if we don't know or like the name, then they must not be good. Now, I'm probably guilty of that my damn self. I'm probably the ringleader of it, if anything. Not because I didn't know who they were, but because I don't always see immediately the plan for the player. I don't. And when I try to figure it out and plug it in, I generally don't like it. So I have to go by what I see on tape. And if I don't like what I see on tape, I report back to you what I don't like about what I seen on tape. But all of these lends itself to the history. So let's go back to 2022. Let's look at the defense from 2022. Isn't it interesting how you can almost see semblances from 2022 in so many years where you made the playoffs? And in fact, many will argue that we should have probably made the playoffs last year. But there was something missing. There was something that was not there. There was always a foundational piece. Each one of those years, I showed you draft-wise those guys. I showed you free agents too. Their names were mentioned. I just wanted you to pay attention. And I'm showing you here now. There are people here who did things that succeeded. Your two pass rushers were Aiden Hutchinson and James Houston. Okay, cool. But how do the Lions take this information and create it into a success for this year? Well, they keep much of the same, but they add a little bit more work to the foundation. They demand more from the players at their positions. And Lee McNeil is going to be called upon to basically turn into the next Chris Jones. We need you to be disruptive. What you did to the Giants, I need you to do this more often. Cominsky is going to be called to be the Kyle Vander Bosch of the team. I need you not only to lead by example, but I need you to be a presence amongst those other guys who may not be ready to talk to some of the other leaders. People like Julian Okor, it's going to probably be told, hey, it's been fun. We can put you on practice squad. Jeff Okudah's been already explained that he was a mistake. Told him sorry, not sorry. Will Harris, a guy that I wish we could have just got rid of, but given the fact that he can play just about any position, now this is not my words, this is your general manager and head coach. He can play inside, outside, safety. So they're still following that formula. But the difference was, when you look at this defense, a lot of the success came from the outside. And when you look at what the foundational pieces that they added this year, it was all about the inside. You add Jack Campbell, you go out, add Broderick Martin, You even turn around and bring in a few other D tackles for a look-see and hope they can push somebody to be better. Isaiah Bugg's going to be required to be better. Aleem McNeil's going to be required to be better. Josh Pascal's going to be required to do more than just do what he did on the outside, but on the inside. And even Levi Onwuzurike is getting in the mix. They're learning from their history. They're building a team that can show success with many things. They are literally giving you the blueprint. And then you look at it. Look at the road that has been paved for the Detroit Lions. Now, I know I may be showing my age on this, but I'm pretty sure you all have at least heard of it or seen a reference. You've either seen The Wizard of Oz or heard of The Wiz. And if you have not, then shame on you. Take time to go and reference it. But isn't it intriguing that even when you look at those two movies, how all of the main characters, aka Dorothy, path to her destination was already set before her. It was very simple. Everybody told her how to get there. She didn't even need GPS. She just had to do one thing. Follow the yellow brick road. That's all she got to do. Just follow the yellow brick road. And the Lions get a road that tells them you should be destroying your division. I mean, hell, you went 5-1 last year in the division. And now you get a team in Green Bay who's weakened. You should destroy them. They're going to try to run the ball. They're going to try to get it on the inside. I'm not worried. They're going to have a hard time with it. They're going to tell you to disregard the fact that there's turmoil over there with the Vikings. They're going to tell you, hey, they added so much more to the receivers. You know, that Addison kid, he's no slouch. Hey, you know, they added some more offensive line help, but they're not going to tell you how they lost one of their best offensive weapons in Devin Cook. They're not going to tell you how they lost a number of key players on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, they're getting some people back from injury like Lewis Seen, but guess what? None of that matters. This is basically his introductory year as a rookie. And you beat them once. Should have beat them twice. If your kicker don't miss field goals. And your defense don't give up the last minute big plays. You sweep the Bears. So off rip, your road has already been paid for you. That's 6 wins right there. And with those 6 wins, all you have to do now is put on another 4 or 5. Which brings me to my next point about building on the success of the foundation. Because if not this year, I don't know when. If not this year to change the fortunes, if not this year to change the fortunes of this team, I don't know when. Okay? If not this year. But let's just talk about this year. All right? Look at the Detroit Lions schedule. All right? I gave you 6 wins in the division. We should sweep that division. All right? For people who don't know, your first game is against the Giants on August the 11th. All right? That's your first preseason game. You ain't going to see shit. Just going to give it to you straight. You're going to get little glimpses here and there that you're going to be excited about, but it's going to be against 3rd and 4th stringers. Do not get caught up in the hype. You're not going to get your first real look until they go against Jacksonville. Okay? But let's find those other wins to this road that's simple as following the yellow brick road. You'll play a Falcons team with a quarterback getting his first shot. Okay, I'm not worried about Desmond Ridder. You're gonna play a Panthers team who, I gotta be honest, they did us dirty. Then they added a really good coach, but they got a rookie quarterback who can barely see over his center's ass. I expect my D tackles to push the center into him every single time until they force him to take shotgun. You're going to play a team in Tampa Bay that has Baker Mayfield at quarterback. No Leonard Fournette. And Todd Bowles is their head coach. And that's coming from a guy who liked the Bucs. I have no trust in them because of Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles, to me, is like Matt Patricia. It annoys me to no end how he's still there. You're going to play a Vegas team going through some changes. You're going to play a Saints team going through some changes. I can tell you right now, if they beat Kansas City, they're winning at least 11 games. They beat Baltimore, they're winning 12. Because there's at least 4 more games that I can put to my 6 just looking at the schedule based on our foundational pieces and based on the fact that the Lions are further along in their build than many people may suspect. My man Dan Spano says, dang, you sound halfway to the positive side today, Luke. I just had to look out my window to see if pigs are flying. I'm always positive. I'm also realistic. I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all season long. If you just believe that you're going to come on here and get a bunch of rah-rah Kool-Aid, nah, that's not my style. I got to give it to you the truth. The truth might be stranger than fiction. But I'm telling you right now, I told you I'm the conductor of the hype train. I watched a media outlet praise the Lions from high heaven on everything they did and then pivot. Not just one, not just two, not just 3 of them, multiple. All because they're uncomfortable. What's going on? Dan Talks Football. That's my man Dan over there. We're gonna be talking about that first game because his favorite team is the Kansas City Chiefs. So we're gonna talk about that. Crimson Shadow says, go back and watch that Vikings versus Colts last season. And they lost Cook and a bunch of D talent. They screwed. It's about to be different. Chris Watts says the franchise guy just dropped his Viking video where he had the Vikings ranked higher than the Lions. That's cool. He should do that. You know why he should? Because we have to still go through and remember the history. Remember it for 3 reasons. Reason 1, so that we don't necessarily repeat it. Reason number 2, so that the history that we had be the fuel we need to change the present and the future. And last but certainly not least, you have to understand that while we did have the best record in terms of win-loss record in the division, you still had one of the worst defenses that people are going to question. So he has every right to have that. It's our job to steal his thunder. We need to not only catch lightning in a bottle, we need to do it more than once. I don't blame people for believing that the Vikings should be the team to beat until they lose it. Cool. If you seen that Spencer Crawford fight, a lot of people thought that it was finna be upset alert. So things are finna get different. But until you prove it, you don't get benefit of the doubt. I'm just telling you the history says that we're on the right track. The history says that we're learning from the mistakes and improving them. And each time that happened, the history says that we lined ourselves up to be in a better position to succeed. And I respect history. But when you go through, you look at how the yellow brick road has been set up, because that's exactly what it is. And in our case, it's not a yellow brick road. Follow the blue road. Follow the silver and blue road. Because it's lending itself to a direction of success. And the other thing that you're going to see is we should have enough depth that even if you have injuries, it should be enough to carry us for a playoff win. And I'm with you, Perry Ball. Ty Bowles is a good DC. Head coach, different problem. All right. So let's look at something. I put the link out there for people to join me. I'm on a vibe today. The foundational pieces that they've done, the history tells me that we're headed in the right direction. The history tells me that the Lions, literally, based on the moves that they made, let's start with 95. Let's just look at where they were as a defense. They were 14th in points given up. In 2011, let's look at where they were as a defense in points given up. 23rd. In 2014, as a defense, they were 3rd in points given up. In 2016, they were 13th in points given up. They literally are telling you that if we find a way to be 16 to 23, we not only in the playoffs, we in business. You win the division, you can get more likely to get a home playoff game. Think about that, people. A home playoff game in Detroit. When's the last time we had that shit? Think about it. Think about it. You have a chance to not only wipe out a lot of your history, but to reroute it and change it. You got a chance to make it happen. Now, Dan asked a very good question. And again, the link is in the description. Feel free to jump in and talk to a brother. I'm all ears. But Dan makes a very good question. How many games do the Lions need to win to make the playoff if you don't win the division? So let's say we don't win the division. They're going to still need at least 11 wins. They have to get 11 wins. Think about it, right? You want to put pressure on everybody else to have to do something. If you're not winning the division, you tell me the other team got 12 wins. I don't see the Vikings getting 12 wins. I don't see the Bears getting 12 wins. I don't see the Packers getting 12 wins. But to make sure that there's pressure on them in the event that they find a way to get 11, let's match that record with 11. Now, he was thinking more of like 9 to 10. I think you got to look at the way the thing plays out. You have to have a good conference record. You have to have a half-decent division record. We can't do what the Raiders did that one year. Do you remember the year where the Raiders went 8-8, swept the entire division, and missed the playoffs? You remember that year? Where the Raiders they had a really good thing, swept the damn entire thing, and then the Chiefs, who had 10-6, went on to the playoff because they just did not get enough conference wins and the numbers didn't add up. But if they had 10, if they could have found 2 more wins somewhere, The Raiders is in the playoffs. Swept the division, and it just didn't work. My point I'm trying to make is that the Lions themselves are in a position with a road that puts them in position to not only win the division, but win the division on top of a playoff game, with an opportunity to win at least 2 playoff games if they can manage to keep themselves alive with a rushing attack. You just got to follow the yellow brick road. And you don't even got to have the Scarecrow, the Lion, or the Tin Man with you. Hell, leave Toto at home. You don't need a single media outlet to support you. All the Munchkin people who was out there trying to support Dorothy, and you took out the Wicked Witch. You can do that this year. You can take out the Big Bad Witch, which is your drought of a playoff win. You can take out the Big Bad Witch of your drought of a division win. You can snuff the damn evil witch swiftly. You don't even need the Munchkin people to lift you up. The Munchkin people is the media. They already so. They was only happy because they felt like she had liberated them from her. No, we don't want your sympathy. We're just going to show you better than we can tell you. But the expectations only get bigger from there. And foundationally, you're going to have a linebacker. You're going to add more D-line help. You're going to add more cornerback help. You got guys who can play multiple positions, which means you can scheme up some stuff. I do make red look good. My man, that fan man says, the Wizard of Our reference are not coaching for the Detroit Lions, and Kyrie Lion is a lame stereotype of our franchise. You forget that Lion got courage when it needed it the most. Yeah, it was scary, but it still took action when it needed it the most. The path is clear. Your road to this successful way is clear. The foundation has been laid for you to get there. Yeah, my country side came out a little bit. Injury stopping the run. The Lions play hard games in and out are the keys to the season. Should be. But the reality is this. It started with the history. The Lions really did do their homework. I don't think people understood why I was so hyped about Sheila taking over as the owner. People laughed at me for saying like she can tax. Go and look at the den. It's an hour and 30-minute video. Go and look at how they describe the use of each player. They was very transparent. Oh, he's a project guy, but I think he's got a lot of upside. They were excited about everything that they did. I honestly think if they would have drafted a Hachu, that they would have celebrated it. But the madness, the method to the madness that they used to design foundational pieces to fix problems is historically on every team that went to the playoffs. My man Anthony says when it comes to Will Harris, he's the 10 man. He ain't got no heart. The way it's looking like Will Harris is going to be a relief guy in a bad way. Like you got people like Branch, you got who is doing a phenomenal job from the little clips that I've seen. You got people like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson who's going to be playing up there in that nickel with Branch. You know, with the safeties being Kirby and Tracy Walker. You got those kind of things going on. And yes, he did become a mean old lion. Even when he was faking trying to be mean, he still found a way to get it done. I'm just telling you that you don't even need that supporting cast. You just simply need to follow the yellow brick road. That's all. Or in this case, the blue and silver road. So again, I'm looking at patterns. I'm looking at history. I'm looking at all the things that's lining up. I'm looking at the foundational pieces for success. Step one, go and look at the foundation that you laid already and make sure that it's perfected. The foundation that they laid already was having an offense that can put pressure on people. And they added to it when they brought in Jahmyr Gibbs. They added to it when they brought in Laporta. They added to it when they brought in Marvin Jones. And they keep on adding people. And yes, does it irritate me at the number of offensive players? It sure as hell does. But I also understand what it's like to make sure that foundations are perfect. Because if you know anything about a house, a garage, a shed, that foundation that it sits on is everything. Let me bring in my first guest. Because we're going to be doing a whole lot of talking, especially with that first game coming up in the opener. My man Dan talks football. What up, though?
Oh, man, Luke, I'm number one.
You're number one.
Oh, man, thank you so much here, man.
Listen, I saw some things.
Hold on, Luke, I messed up here. I dropped the ball here, and I had the sound on YouTube, and I had the sound on making an echo. I apologize about that.
No, you're good.
Thanks for having me on here. Listen, man. So you just got done mentioning you're looking at the history, you're looking at the trends, and I want to throw something out there. I just want to make this quick here because I'm seeing a lot of 12-5 sweeping the division and everything. So let me throw out some trends, some numbers here. Do you know that Dan Campbell's record in September and October is 1-13? That's 1-13. I'm looking at Aaron Glenn's defense over the last two seasons. I'm looking at the 31st in points allowed and 28th and dead last in yards given up and dead last in first downs. I'm looking at this schedule. And when I look at the Detroit Lions schedule, the game that really stands out to me, and this is a must-win game in my opinion, it's going to sound nuts, the Vegas Raiders game. It's Monday Night Football. It's the day right before the trade deadline. And also week 9, you have a bye. Let me ask you this here. You come out to another slow start, which has been the trend of the Detroit Lions, right? You come out to a slow start. You lose that game Monday night. Is Aaron Glenn's job on the line? Do you replace him? I know you added in Dre Bly as secondary coach. I'm drawing a blank on your defensive line coach, coach I really like. Is there a chance with all the hype and a slow start that some drastic moves are made right after the bye?
If you believe we get a slow start, I don't believe that. I believe we beat the Chiefs.
Okay.
I believe that we beat the Falcons. I believe we beat the Packers. I believe we beat the Panthers. I believe we beat Tampa Bay, and I believe we beat Vegas. So even if you go through and you look at that, I got the Chiefs, Falcons, Packers, Panthers, Tampa, and Vegas. That's 6 wins right there.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you're in great shape. Because that first half of the season, I think the game that I've circled, and it's a must-win game, that Monday night game, October 30th, because if you do it traditionally, you've done. I mean, look at the defense. You're going to have 5 or 6 new starters in that defense. Aaron Glenn, I know he's a popular guy and everything, but look at what he's done the last 2 years. It's been a terrible defense over the last 2 years. You're going to have 5, 6 new starters. Jameson Williams, he got that gambling thing, which, we could talk about and everything. I mean, bottom line, he's going to be gone those 6 weeks.
I don't need him, though. I don't need him for those 6 weeks. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the Lions had the number 1 scoring offense and didn't have him at all in the first 9 games of last season. So we don't need him. Like people forget, we played with a lot of teams. We played with the Buffalo Bills. We played with the Eagles.
You should beat Buffalo,
right? Like we played with those teams, right? And when you go through and you look at it, right? Let's be honest, right? You a Kansas City Chiefs fan, right?
Oh yeah.
Are the Kansas City Chiefs a run first team or a pass first team?
No, they're passing team.
And what's the thing that the Lions just upgraded right now? The biggest upgrade to them.
Oh, the biggest upgrade. Well, you know, in my opinion, I think it's secondary. I mean,
100% it's secondary.
You added some 3 new pieces. I love Brian Branch. I thought that was just a fantastic pickup.
I mean, but I'm just saying, it's 100% the secondary, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the secondary is already the biggest part, you are already a pass first team. That plays into our strength.
So here's what I'm looking at though. I'm not sold on Aaron Glenn.
You don't have to be.
Yeah.
You know why you don't have to be?
Why's that?
You don't have to be because all Aaron Glenn had to do is get them to be middle of the pack defense. And I believe that's very achievable with the way a lot of these teams play. So if you go through and you look at it, right? If Kansas City comes out and they start to decide that they're going to make Pachenko the feature guy, I might be able to see it. But when I look at the last couple of seasons that Aaron Glenn has been here, I never felt that defense had the proper talent or personnel to do the things that they asked him to do. In fact, that was one of the biggest arguments that they were having was about like, look, you want me to do what? And they were switching things around. But when you go through and you look at Seattle, who apparently just not only lost Kenneth Walker for a significant amount of time, but they also lost the guy they just drafted out of UCLA.
Yeah, Charbonnet, something.
Charbonnet, right? Okay, so they're going to be limited in terms of a rushing attack. And so now what that means, you got Geno Smith with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and I'm drawing a blank on the other damn receiver name.
You know what? They make fun of me because I can't get his name right.
Me neither. I can't either. Ohio State receiver.
JSN. Okay. You know Ohio State guy. I know who he is. You know who he is. Yeah.
But you talking about those receivers going into week 2 in Detroit. They're not playing. They're not having the travel. They got 10 days of rest from that game against Kansas City before they play on the 17th. To come home and play Seattle, that's a win.
Well, let me ask you this though. Let's just flip it around though. Flip it around. Let's say you start off 0-2. Just go with me here. You go 0-2. Green Bay gets revenge. Baltimore gets revenge, and you go into that Raiders game and you're 3-4. All right, you're 3-4. There's a lot of Lions fans out there that feel like you do that are saying 6-2, 12-win team. Let's say you flip it around and they're 3-4. You lose that game on Monday night against the Raiders, a very winnable game, a big time game, a prime time game. You go into that bye week at 3-5. Does somebody get fired? Do the Lions make a bold move? Because it's right before the trade deadline. I think that of all the teams in the NFL that could make a trade this year at the trade deadline, I'm looking at the Detroit Lions as a team that could make a trade. They could say, hey, look, we've used a lot of draft capital over the last 2 years to build up a really, really good football team. Let's add something, just like the Rams did 2 years ago, adding up Von Miller. Is that a possibility, or am I just, hey, because I'm outside of loop, am I just out there in left field?
Yeah, if you look at the screen, you notice that, the incredible Petty Luke is trying to stay out of it. He's trying to, I keep telling him no, he wants to come out. But the reality is this.
I'm just asking Lions fans.
The reality is this. It's about, the question you ask is based on a scenario that I think lends itself a certain response. Even if they're 3-4, going into that bye week, if they win that game, they're 4-4, right?
Okay.
All right. So let's just say at that point,
the Raiders game's a must-win game. Let's say they lose that game in this scenario.
Okay. Let's say they lose that game. They're 3-5, right?
Yeah, yes, that's
okay. All right. Just stay with me. They still got 2 games against the Bears. They go 5 right there. They still got a game against the Packers. They go your 6th win. They still got 2 games against Minnesota. They go 8. They got a game against New Orleans. That's 9. Right?
No. I'm pretty high on the Saints. I don't see that as a win at all. I would see that as a loss.
Really?
Oh yeah. I think the Saints could probably be the second best team in the NFC.
So you buying the Derek Carr love?
Yeah, I'm really high on the Saints. I
Okay.
love the defense, and I think the offense will get it done. I like the Jamal Williams addition there. I think that was a good move for the Saints. And Alvin Kamara will be done with this suspension. I think he'll be fresh. Now my opinion of the Saints is probably different than a lot of people, but I'm very high on the Saints this year. I think at New Orleans, I see it as a loss.
Okay, so you have it as a loss right now. But in your scenario, I'm showing you where I believe that there are winnable games on the schedule still.
Oh no! I'm not saying there's not.
So even with your scenario, let's say they lose that. So even if you look at that, let's say you go past that. You telling me how many wins you got them doing? Let's go through.
Here's the thing. Now I told you that in September and October, Dan Campbell's 1-13.
Yeah, but that's subjective. That's subjective for two reasons. That's subjective.
Better at the second half. See, I think the Lions could start slow. And here's what I'm worried about when I look at the Lions. They're going to be better after the bye. Jameson Williams is going to get involved. You're going to have all these free agents. They're going to be integrated into the system. I think the Lions could start slow. Here's what I'm worried about is because the hype and the expectations are at an unprecedented level. I apologize, but I just did the video on the Lions, and I'm drawing a blank. I think it's 93. Is that right? The last time they won the division was 93?
91.
91? Okay. I should have known that, but it was 91. Okay, so over 30 years, and they're favored across the board to win the division. What happens if they start off slow again?
Yeah, but that's like saying what happens if I stump my toe, right? What happens? This is the thing. I understand the numbers that you're giving, and you want to point out Dan Campbell's record, right? But you're not also pointing out the context behind the record, right? You're not pointing out the fact that this is a team that was taken over in that first season with a bunch of nobodies on the goddamn roster. I'm talking about nobodies. I had no respect for the people on the roster. I just didn't, right? And on top of that, you look at that season and you look at how they responded with a bunch of nobodies. They still gave people hell. They put a lot of people into a stress test and made them bad. The second year come around, yeah, they were in a lot of games. Yes, the defense was a hot trash of a joke, right? But they still didn't have enough talent. They still didn't have enough talent to make it work, right? So even with that, all of that you're saying lends itself to different parts of the context. In the first year of his thing, that was his first season. The second year was his second season, and he's under part of the time with his new coordinator, which was Ben Johnson. And so that defense, which they tried to do some things with, they didn't address a lot of the things that I would personally want them to address. But none of that has any bearing on it, right? Because guess what? Nobody cares about that stuff, right? If you go through and you look at the if you go through and you look at the history of a lot of teams, nobody gives a care about that history. The Dallas Cowboys got shitty ass history. They got less playoff wins than the Carolina Panthers. I can care less about the history, right? What I'm telling you is learn from the history, because history also tell you that bottom finish could go from worst to first.
There's always one. There's always one.
But the idea of a slow start, which sounds like to me, you believe they're going to start off slow. I don't. Everything tells me they won't. Just follow me, and I can put your theory to the test. All right. Let's say they lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to go against a team in the Seattle Seahawks. Who's the starting running back?
Oh God, I'm hopeful. If you're a Seahawks fan, I say I'm hopeful, but
I am a Seahawks fan.
Okay,
I am. I'm also a Bucs fan too.
You're hopeful that Kenneth Walker will be there, but beyond it, Charbonnet's not. I don't know the Kenneth Walker situation. From what I'm hearing, he's not going to play in the first preseason game. I think they're hopeful that he's going to start the season, but I'd be lying.
Let's say he play that game, right? Are you saying that you think the starting running back is going to be him?
I don't know. That's a good question. That's something I would definitely follow.
Okay,
but I do think that's going to be a good game. I really do. But what I want to point out though is that Monday night game against the Raiders, that's a must-win game.
You know why it's not a must-win game?
I really think it is a must-win game because
why it's not though, Dan?
You go into the bye you could be below 500, and I think you could have a knee-jerk reaction.
You won't. And the other part of it is this, Dan. The reason it's not a must-win game is because of two reasons. One, it's non-conference. Two, at the end of the day, they're not having a slow start. And if you were to go through, if you believe that they're going to lose to Kansas City, fine, right? I think they're going to beat Kansas City. But if you believe they're going to lose to Kansas City, I'm telling you, as a fan of the Seattle Seahawks, they're beating them too, because they have some problems. And it's not just sleight of hand problems, it's problems. And that same team had Kenneth Walker last year. They did run the ball well. They did a lot of things well, but we lost that game because our defense couldn't stop the run up the middle. I don't see that being a problem now. That's why you go out and you add a linebacker like Jack Campbell, right? You go through, and I see you in the back, Anthony, hold tight. You go through, you look at the next game, right? The Falcons. You high on Desmond Ridder at the quarterback spot?
The Falcons are kind of an interesting team.
No. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Desmond Ridder is a question mark. I love him coming out Cincinnati.
Yeah, but yes or no? Yes or no? Are you high on him?
I can't give you a yes or no answer. I think he's the future. So wait. Of that team though.
Okay, so wait.
Really
so even you have to admit that there's that outside of Bijan Robinson, you ain't really looking like they about to be about that life. All right, so that's two. So even if they lost to Kansas City, they go 2 wins right there. Now they go on the road to play a Green Bay Packer team with Jordan Love. You high on Jordan Love?
No, me and you have known each other for a while. You know I was never high on Jordan Love.
All right, so that's 3. Now the Panthers can be a question mark because they can run the ball. They do have it. However, I do believe that there's going to be some issues with the quarterback in center exchange. However, the other part of it is this. This time around, we're going to gear up to stop the run. I think Frank Reich is a good coach, but that could be a trap game. Let's say hypothetically I get them a loss. They're still 3-2. Tampa Bay. I'm a Bucs fan. I'm telling you right now. No. It's Todd Bowles, bro. I'm sorry. Todd Bowles is the problem. The same way I felt about Matt Patricia is Todd Bowles. I don't think Todd Bowles and them beat us. I just don't. So at that point, they're 4-2. They go and play Baltimore. Let's say they lose that game against Baltimore. They're 4-3. And if they lose the game against the Vegas, they're 4-4. With a bye week at week 9 to heal up and an opportunity to now play the Bears twice. That goes 6. I believe they beat them. They play the Vikings twice. That right there is 8. I believe they beat them. I believe they beat New Orleans, and I believe they sweep the Packers. I still see a road where we're not the slow start or whatever you come up with don't work. And the history shows that we've been there before. We've had a 1-4 start and still make the playoffs. We've had a 1-6 start and pushed for the playoffs.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. Let me bring it
last week of the season. So basically, you think that let's just hypothetically say you're 3-5. You don't think panic's going to set in. You don't think that there's going to be a trade or and I say trade, adding a player, not getting rid of a player, like you did with Hawkinson last year. You don't think that you're going to add a player.
I think whether we're winning or losing, they're looking for trades now.
I really do too. That's another thing. I do think that the Lions are a team at the trade deadline could make a move. I'll even give you a player, Patrick Quin, the Ravens linebacker.
He won't be somebody that we look at for 2 reasons.
You don't think so? Too expensive?
No, it's not expensiveness, but it's the fact that you invested in Jack Campbell. You just re-signed Ellis Anzalone. Y'all, they love Malcolm Rodriguez. And the other part of it is simply this. They know that if they're going to get a player who's going to play linebacker, it's going to be somebody who fits the Jack Campbell mode, who's big, fast, and agile.
Yeah, you're right. Queen's a smaller guy. But Aaron Glenn, you let's just say Kansas City puts up 45, Seattle puts up 38. Aaron Glenn's safe no matter what.
I believe that the Detroit Lions, I think if you're worried about what it would take for Aaron Glenn to get fired and when would it happen, it would have to take for a repeat of what happened last year, where you're giving up 45, 30-some points a game. Mm-hmm. Then they'll probably say it's time to move on from him. The problem is that's just not going to happen. Not the history. Let me bring in my next guest, Anthony from Roar the Lions UK. I know he want to chime in on this. What's going on, my brother?
Hey, my better-looking twin. How are you getting on?
I'm doing good, man. You know, I'm gonna talk to my man Dan. Dan is pushing out some scenarios, and I get what he's doing. I understand why he's doing it. He has to, right? It makes sense because he's a Chiefs fan, so he's already got us marked down and taking an L against the Chiefs, right? I'm telling you right now, I can feel it in my soul.
I saw the comment, Luke, get that guy out.
I'm sat there listening to him talk about Aaron Glenn. And I'm like, please don't. Luke's in a good mood today. Don't mention Aaron Glenn. Just leave him alone. Just leave him where he is.
You see, it was coming. It was coming. I was fighting it. It was coming. But you know what I did? I surrendered. I gave up. I said, I fought against it. But I'm trying to get Dan to see from a perspective of the Lions. Our road is clear. I'm telling you, it's clear. Even if this is how confident I am. Even if Jared Goff got hurt, I'm not concerned. Because I 100% believe that Hendon Hooker is healthy.
Yeah, actually, I'm dying to know is Hooker practicing or
Nope. They playing him slow. But let me let Anthony get his piece in. I know he want to respond to you, so go ahead, Anthony.
With Hooker, we'll leave Hooker till later. But I mean, listen, the slow starts. I've been thinking about this, and yeah, the first 2 seasons, the starts have been slow. But you know, you do have to take the extenuating circumstances into account here. Year 1, you got a trash roster. You've got one of the worst rosters in the NFL. Period. It's the first year of Brad and Dan. They've only been in since January. You got Jared Goff, who's just come into the franchise. You got no defense. You got nothing to go with it. I can understand the slow start there. And when you go into last year, even your defense is still young. It's still growing. You know, you've added a lot through your draft in year 1, a lot through draft in year 2, and you saw towards the back. Everyone loves to put out the stat. It was the 32nd base defense, but no, over the second half of the season, it wasn't, because young defenses get better with experience and better as they grow. And then you come into year 3, you've got a much more experienced team now. You've got a top 5 offense in the NFL. You have a defense which has finally got some competent veterans in there, and its young players are getting a lot more experience. You know, this is the year where it will get better on the start there. I don't worry too much about the bad starts of the past few years. It's just time. It'll be time for us this year, and you got some tough games to start off with, but there's no excuses. But even if you start off poorly, those first 5 games are really difficult. Like Luke says, we've got a conference that's weak. We've got a good schedule. We'll be fine. Even if we start a little slow, I think we'll be absolutely fine.
And then on top of that, right? Like, let's just look at it from the reality of it, right? I hate to be the bearer of bad news on this, but I'm sorry. Like, if that game was in Seattle, I might have given more of a higher chance. They get 10 days rest before they get to play Seattle. Then they get to come and play a Falcons team who is still trying to figure out who the hell they want to be. You get a Packer team on Thursday Night Football on a short week, but it's Jordan Love. Their best asset is running the ball. Who's the Packers' top receiver right now? And I like my man Christian from out of North Dakota State, but let's be honest, it's Jordan Love. I'm not threatened by the Packers. Look what we did when they had Aaron Rodgers. Jordan Love is no Aaron Rodgers. He's not Aaron Rodgers' jockstrap. So even if you think that they're going to start off slow, even after the Kansas City game, if anything, they start off with a 4-0 start. If anything, I believe they beat Kansas City. And if they don't, let's say they don't beat Kansas City, I'm still looking at 4 to 5 games where I'm like, I am not worried. They're all going to be within the conference. I'm not worried. The last thing I'm worried about is Vegas. Why? Because it don't make a difference. Vegas is just a bonus. It's a non-conference game. It's not going to set me back. That's all I'm saying. I don't think it's going to set me up to fail or anything like that. I think that the idea of a slow start can be there. I think questioning Aaron Glenn can be there. I think questioning the defense can be there. Questioning Dan Campbell, questioning a slow start, all that can be there, right? That all can be there. Kansas City has not lost the opening game in like 8 seasons. But there's also things like running backs breaking records. Records are meant to be broken. And when you go through and you look at Kansas City's week 1 play teams, it ain't like they was super impressive. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Just saying.
Yeah, and I'm not worried about that Raiders game at all. We beat scrub teams now. We did last year. You beat the scrubs. We did at home. All of our conference guys, the Jags, the Giants. You beat the scrubs. You beat the team you're around. That Raiders team has nothing about them, and they're at our ground. They're at our place. There's no way that you're gonna lose that. I just don't think there is at all. The Chiefs, yeah, that's gonna be tough. I mean, for me, it's always been about week 2. All about that second game. The Seahawks were the periphery team on the playoffs last year. They were last team in. They are the current standard to get in the playoffs. And you got them. So if you can beat them, then, you're on a path. You're on a path to the playoffs. That's where the standard is, and you just keep going from there. You got the Packers again. You got to beat them again. The Panthers, we owe them vengeance. It's a case of... It is... Those first 5 games are critical. They come out with 3 or 4 wins. This team is going to win double-figure games this year. I can absolutely guarantee you that. You got 2 of our bogey teams. You got the Chiefs, and you got the Packers. That's really the equation for me.
And let me ask you a question, Dan.
Yes.
Because you gave me a scenario about if they start off slow. What about when they start off fast?
I would love it. I love the Detroit Lions hype, but one of the things I always do is I always look at trends, and basically, my question was, let's just say, because a lot of Lions fans feel like you guys feel like they're going to start off fast. They're going to be, a 5-6 win team at the bye. My question is, when if it doesn't happen, because the hype's there, is this organization going to have a knee-jerk reaction if this ends up being a 2-3 win team at the bye? Are they going to make a major trade?
We was a 1-win team at the bye last year.
It's night and day difference. Last year, if you would told me at the beginning of the 2022 season, the Detroit Lions are going to go 9-8 and they're going to knock Green Bay out of the playoffs, that's a great season. This year, if you're 9-8 and you don't make the playoffs, that's below expectations. It's a night and day scenario. Nobody was really expecting much out of the Lions. A lot of the Lions fan base was, but the general sports public. This year, every single sports book has the Lions winning the division, and it's by a big margin.
Because it should be by a big margin. It should be.
So with the higher expectations, that's what I'm asking. With the higher expectations, when if you do the same thing that you've done the last 2 years and start slow?
We won't though.
History
say that that's not the case. Show me in history where teams consistently started slow and they just persisted 3-4 years down the stretch. Show me those teams.
Off the top of my head, but I can tell you this: that the Lions have started slow the last 2 years. So let's just say,
we're already talking about the Lions as a point of discussion, right? Okay. We're already talking about them as a point of discussion. So the question now becomes: show me the other team not named the Lions who started off at a slow start for 2 or 3 years.
I'm sorry, I was distracted by Jack's comments here right now. Hey, good luck, Jack. Hey, Jack, put your money where your mouth is, all right?
I mean, listen, and I get it, because the question you're asking is in my opinion, is fair. I'm not turning my nose down to anything.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I just want to know, is there a possibility that there could be a coaching change after week 8?
No.
Is that a possibility?
No. They get one badge year. Because the improvement's been there so far. You get one badge year, and then you look at the change. That'll be, unless we're getting swept by 30 every week and it just all completely blows up in our faces, then they will. I mean, if we start slow, I'll be angry. This is kind of.
I think most people would be.
I think that's rightfully so because we've seen this team and the development path it's on. The question is, can they deal with the pressure this year? Can they win games? It's all mentality. This has nothing to do with talent this year. We have a team that is talented enough to beat the Chiefs. I mean, we do. Do they have the mentality to go out there with big teams like that and put in the performances when it matters, when the expectation is on them? And that is Campbell's thing this year. He's got to prove that he can just do more than install grit. He can install the winning mentality. And so far, signs are positive. They did last year. Yes, it wasn't under pressure, but not many teams come from 1-6 to win 9 games. And that is a big mentality change. And you've seen this year, they're convincing good players to come here. We've got the best team in terms of depth we've had in forever. This team is better than anything Caldwell put together, like by a long distance. And if you can't do it with that, then questions will be asked. But
let me just say this, Anthony, because I wanted to chime in on this because I was going to say this, and I'm still going to do it because I got more to just this. I think not only does history show that we won't start off slow, but go and look at teams after a Super Bowl win, including your Kansas City Chiefs and their opener games those seasons. Go back and look at the history on that, right? And then when we talk about this, they're 8-0 in opening games. Let's look at who they went against. Arizona Cardinals last year. Whoa, way to have a challenge there. The Cleveland Browns. Whoa, you really bucking at the bark there. The Houston Texans, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Chargers, the Patriots, the Chargers, the Texans. Who the hell did y'all play?
Well, the Patriots were coming off of a Super Bowl win. That was an impressive win. Arizona was where were they, like 10-6 the year before? I mean, they went to they were a playoff team. Detroit's not a. You can knock the Cardinals, you can do that, but they were a playoff team. In
2022, what were the Cardinals? What were the records?
In 2021.
In 2021,
they were a playoff team. Detroit's not a playoff team.
But the NFL is what have you done for me lately?
But your team didn't make the playoffs.
But you know that the NFL is what have you done for me lately? What was the Cardinals' record in 2022?
See, here's the thing. You mentioned what have we done for me lately, and I'm just pointing out that if you guys have another slow start again, is Aaron Glenn? Is this somebody who could get fired because year 1, the worst defense in football, year 2, bottom 5 defense? Is there a chance you guys make a move mid-season? Somebody brought in Sport Gamer there. I completely forgot you guys said John Fox. Anthony Pleasant was the guy I was trying to think of. He's the defensive line coach. He's the guy I think that you might want to move to.
But the problem that I'm trying to point out to you is this. The reason you don't want to talk about the Cardinals team on what they did this year is because they were hot garbage and they were 4 and whatever, right? Yeah. And on top of them being hot garbage, everybody and their mother saw that they had success at one point in time. But when you go through and you look at these teams, and it's easy to go backwards and try to make a case and say, well, we beat a guy who was a playoff team just a year ago. But the reality was that team was fraudulent, just like the Vikings are a fraudulent team. They were very fraudulent last season. And if we can look at them, they were a playoff team. I don't care about that record stuff when I can tell you I watched those games and I can tell you that these teams were not good teams. So hindsight's always 20/20. And when I looked it up, I didn't see a single thing because I did research this. I didn't see a single person who had the Arizona Cardinals winning that division that year, coming into 2022, and didn't have them winning the division the year that they went to the playoffs. And on top of that, I didn't see anything to go to it. But when you go through and you look at this whole entire record of 8-0, and this idea that they're going to start slow, well, if by slow meaning that they beat the Kansas City Chiefs and then come back and take care of the Seattle Seahawks, then so be it.
No, I mean, 1-1 would be I think it would, honestly, if I'm the Detroit Lions and I start off the season 1-1, I think that's a pretty good start, to be honest with you.
So I mean, this start thing, I don't think there's much credence to it. We're not a team who's traditionally started bad, even under Matt Patricia. His teams were known for starting well and then fading off. I mean, 2019 we were 3-3-1. 2020 we were 4-4. His team started, and because he couldn't coach to save his life, the teams fell off. This 2 years, when we legitimately started with one of the worst rosters in the NFL, it's understandable why they start slow. It's not a trend. It's not that they can't. It's that, you're not really in a position where you can. That first year team they had here was, we were talking about it as legitimately one of the worst teams ever. I don't think any of us predicted more than 3 wins that year. That's how bad it was. And then last year, we're building a very young team. They don't start well. This is the whole point of growing youth pains. It's one of the things you have to bear with when you're building through the draft. This year's different because you've got a lot of second, third year veteran guys now. It's not that they can't, it's the situation. You have to take the situation into account. Why are they starting slow? And, we've been in horrible positions. That's why now, again, for the first time in forever, this is a team that has depth that no Lions team has had in forever and a day. And they're confident and they believe in themselves. You can see that. But
that's a component that we're missing, though, Anthony. There's a component that we're missing, and I think I want Dan to kind of look at. 'Cause I love history, right? And if you look at it, the history shows that more likely than not, that most of the teams who start slow and are able to finish strong later tend to do better. This happened with the Giants. It's happened even with your Kansas City Chiefs. Even if you go back to your most recent history of the 2021 season, they started out in the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. They started out 3-3, and by the time they got to the next one, they was 3-4. But guess what happened? They went on a run. Win. It's not always how you start, it's how you finish, right? Like, for example, there's been other teams who have done this same exact things, including the Ravens and so forth and so on. The slow start is not necessarily an indicator of how a season finished, as seen with the Detroit Lions, with them finishing 9-8 after going 1-6. I think the biggest thing that we should look at is not so much is if Aaron Glenn is in trouble or not. Our biggest concerns is once we win, what happens with our offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson? That's our biggest concern. Most Lion fans are not panicked about a slow start. Most Lion fans don't see where the Lions are going to start slow. Here's what I can tell you. You had a team without Jameson Williams, still had the number 1 scoring offense through the first 5 games. By the time they was 1-6, they were still third in scoring offense. They just didn't have the defense, right? And so you look at what happened this offseason. They completely revamped the secondary. You get people like Tracy Walker back. You bring in a linebacker help with Jack Campbell. Which should be much, much more upgraded than just having Malcolm Rodriguez and Ellis Anzalone out there. You're going to have more help on the D-line because you're getting those guys back healthy. And then the kicker of it all is this. Aaron Glenn is not back there coaching the defense by himself. He does have the Jack Fox help, which when you go back and you look at even the Aaron Glenn's season where he was starting to show signs of proof and fight, he had Don Capers. And so having those type of things do help and lend itself to it. The Lions mantra is next man up in all reality. And I'm just telling you, the slow start never even crossed my mind.
All right.
Never crossed my mind.
Well, yeah, you bring up a good. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when I look at a team on how they're going to do for the next year, I always look at how they end. And the 8-2 finish, I mean, it's very impressive. I mean, you guys should be excited. I'm not trying to take anything, away from the Detroit Lions, but when I look at the schedule and I look at the history and I look at trends, I'm just curious what you guys think as Lions fans. If you do come up with a slow start, and I guess you guys feel like Aaron Glenn's safe no matter what.
No. What Lions fans feel is we're not coming up with a slow start. That it's almost like if you, let's say for example, if I tell you, hey, I got a chance for you to get $1 million, all you got to do is pick it up. You don't got to do anything, just pick it up. Now here's the kicker: if you pull a muscle, that money is null and void. Even if you rip your damn hamstrings from your ass to your feet, you're still picking that $1 million up. Why? Because you're not expecting yourself to fail at any point in time. And I'm telling you, the Lions fans are not expecting that. When we look at this schedule, we're not looking at a schedule in this division and saying, "Oh man, slow start." I looked at the schedule and I went, "Oh, We got some games that is easy. I got 6 wins in the division. I got 4 wins outside of it. I got wins on top of wins that I could point out to you. And Kansas City is one of them. I just think that given the fact that they keep pushing this narrative about, the Lions haven't won an opening game in this many years, and the Kansas City Chiefs have won an opening game in this many years. Yeah, I think y'all take an L to us. Now, when it happens, I got to bring you back on because we got to talk.
Hey, listen. Hey, one thing. I have my flaws, and I'm one egotistical motherfucker. I'm talking. Because
you good, Dan. You good.
I'm one egotistical motherfucker. But hey, when I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong. Matter of fact, I don't know if Funk's here. I think it was last year. I told Funk. He came on my show and he's like, "We're gonna beat the Giants," and I'm like, "No way in hell you're gonna beat the Giants. Go ahead, put your money down." What happened? You guys going to beat the Giants? I made a little video about that. I put in that screen that says a few moments later, and I put all the highlights. I made that just for Funk. So hey, listen. You guys beat us. I'm going to come on and I'm going to say, hey, man, great job. Keep going for the rest of the season because I think the NFL needs the Detroit Lions to be good. I think the NFL would be better, and I think the NFL is looking. I literally just finished up my Lions video. Like a few minutes ago, that Week 18 game, as a sports fan, as a football fan, I want that to be for the NFC North. I really do. It sounds like you guys think you'll have it wrapped up before.
No, it'd be wrapped up before the end.
Yeah.
It'll be wrapped up before the end because I'm telling you, when you look at the way the schedule is set up, like first of all, the amount of travel that we're doing is not as bad as other schedules, so that's good. Like I said, that's huge. But you're talking about literally like come off the bye week, you play the Chargers. You go to play the Chargers fresh, healthy, coming in with some rest. That gives us even more chance. In that game, and until 4:05, they did us a favor to respect the time zones. I mean, come on. The Bears. I'm not threatened by the Bears. I've never lost sleep over the Bears. I'm not going to lose sleep over the Bears. I'm not. The only team down that stretch that I think can be a damn problem is the Denver Broncos.
You're not worried about Dallas?
So
no.
So we talk about looking at trends when we're trying to say what this team's going to do. It's not very good, etc. But you judge a team by how it finishes. We've not won 8 games in 10 since we went to the playoffs in 2016. That's the kind of form we're talking about here. And when you're looking at the team, what's the most important thing for young players in the NFL and their development? Winning games of football. I said it last year. Year 2 was about the rookies learning how to win, about the young guys gaining that winning mentality. Detroit has not had a team this young who has won this many games. I would harken ever. This is a team that really is different to anything we've had in recent history, which is while you're looking at trends, I think it's a sort of a misnomer. You can't really take much from it. This is a young team which is highly confident, highly driven, and it now believes in itself. And that is one of the most dangerous types of teams you can get in the NFL. And, teams it's going to be coming up against, like Luke says, we should be scared of nobody in the NFC North at this point. And they're not scared of anyone. They went 5-1 last year against the NFC North, despite the fact they started 1-6. It's, that's belief. That is knowing that you're better than your opposition. That is knowing that you've got the skill and the talent. And where we were weak last year, we've strengthened. The secondary was the weakness, not the D-line. The secondary is now rife with great players in their prime, which is also something Detroit has never had. We've had has-beens and cast-offs and injury cripples and all that sort of stuff. You've now got guys who, CJ is one of the best at his position in the NFL, period. Cam is, one of the better corners going. He's emerging. He's in his prime. You're mixing that with young, hungry talent that knows how to win games. That is a very dangerous team. So you can't look at the precedents of past failures. Matt Patricia's teams were never like this. They were just full of overpaid has-beens who didn't give a damn. You cannot compare those sort of stats to this team because there is more talent in every single one of these guys here than anything Patricia had in his 3 years here. Full stop, period. Depth, guys who want to be here, guys who want to win, guys who care. You can't look at stats with this team because, as they've shown, they'll just bite your kneecap and they'll do away with your stats. They don't care about history. They care about the now and they care about winning. And we've seen the growth and development of this team from day one. We know what sort of trajectory it's on, and it's up. It's not they're going to come down and they're going to regress. It's they're going up and they're going to start kicking ass in the higher tiers now.
Listen, hey, like I said, I'm just making it the point to say, you know what? I get his question, though. And again, to the people listening,
I do.
It's very much a fair question. Whether you like it or not, that question is fair. People get the opportunity to question you, given your history, given some of the things that's currently going on. And I'm telling you, you've seen me be very critical of our general manager because I felt that he could have did some things to address some other positions a little bit better. But I'm also able to be objective and say, you know what? At the end of the day, looking at the way the schedule is lined up, looking at the fact that they got these people hurt, Geno Smith, I know that they got him rated higher than Jared Goff on Madden. I know that many people think that Geno Smith has made a resurgence. I'm a Seahawks fan. I don't buy it. I don't buy it one bit. Geno Smith is still Geno Smith. This is what he does, right? And so at the end of the day, if they don't have a run game and it's all on Geno Smith's shoulders, that's a win. You look at the Falcons, yeah, you got Bijan Robinson. But if this Lion team can stop that damn run and be 13-20 in defense in terms of giving up points and 18-23 in terms of yards. Not only are they in the playoffs, they're winning more games than you could have thought. And the hype train, which let me just be clear, I'm his conductor. Okay? The hype train is live and in effect. Okay? So again, it's a fair question. I don't want people to think that it's not a fair question. It's still good vibes and positive vibes around here. But he has every right to ask the question. Now, what's going to really be intriguing is when me and him go live to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and Detroit Lions matchup, as he is a Kansas City Chiefs fan. And Dan has always been a good guy. He's always been open and fair about things and stuff and impartial and stuff. So y'all are not going to want to miss that. We're going to be talking about that game and getting into depth about what we think is going to happen. I've watched the quarterbacks episode on Netflix. Patrick Mahomes really loves himself. He gonna hate us.
I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it.
Listen. I'm so sold on it.
Fan Patrick Mahomes can't walk on water. It's almost fighting words.
Listen,
we're nuts about Mahomes. It's pretty crazy.
Listen, I love the quarterback show on Netflix so much that tomorrow I plan on talking about who I want on it. I need a Lions quarterback or two on that damn show. I thought it was absolutely done really well by what Peyton Manning and them did. It's beautiful. And I loved it, So yeah, like you get to see what they're thinking at the plays. There was games where they showed them going against the Vikings. They showed the Lions going against the Vikings and Kirk Cousins' thought process that he made a bad play. And you see them showing like him basically saying like, look, we got to do this and this and this. And then you see them get this little slither of hope where he goes, yep, that one hurts. He's playing through pain. So it's a very good show. But yeah, people, we've been on for an hour and 46 minutes. I was going to do something short today, but I couldn't do it. I wanted to make sure I got people in the building to talk about it. Couldn't do it enough. Dan, from Dan Talks Football, who I'm telling you, if you betting, you might want to check on it. You might want to check in on it. That's all I'm gonna say. You know what I'm saying? Because he's gonna make you some money. He's gonna give you some ideas and something to think about when it comes to your betting. Me, I stay away from that. I'm too broke for that life. Okay, I'm too broke. But he's gonna do it. Dan, give the people your final thoughts of the day.
Oh man, hey, listen, man. I just want to thank you guys for coming on. And even though I brought up some bad stuff here, I want you guys to be positive. I want you guys to drink the Kool-Aid. You guys have been down for a long time, and I can tell you this from absolute facts. I got a strong following of Lions fans. You guys are fantastic. You guys, I probably shouldn't say this. Lions fans are way better than Chiefs fans. It's not even close. Not even close. You guys are fantastic. I'm hoping you guys have a good year after week 1.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. They said make sure I drop the link for your channel, but I'm almost sure his channel is already linked on my description. I'm gonna double check because I don't take people's channel off that I support off of my video.
You're one of mine I support, man.
So let me double check. I could be wrong, but I'm almost sure it is linked there, and it is. So if you look at my description, it is linked there. Dan Talks Football. Yeah. See, I support everything. I support great people. Thanks, brother. And it's on every freaking video. Feel free to go and click it. It is absolutely there. And shout out to Sports Gamer. Yes, Patrick Mahomes' wife got on my damn nerves. I don't think I ever been so annoyed by someone I did not know than I was with her. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how I could not be him. I could not do it. I could not do it.
I don't know how Kirk Cousins had the temerity to talk about getting hit and sacks when he pays refs to call, late hits on him. You remember the Tracy Walker hit, the perfectly legal one that he went over and he was crying and moaning? It's like, shut up. You pay these refs to protect you, so don't complain about sacks. You overpaid.
I mean, listen, that hit he took actually broke some ribs. It's a really good show. That hit was a legitimate hit. I wish I could say that. It says Stafford wife was just as bad. She's not on the show. You got to watch the show, Perry. Watch the show. I promise you're going to walk away and be like, "Oh, it was terrible." But Anthony, give the people your final thoughts.
I'm looking forward to Lions football, man. Preseason's next week. I'm really excited. It's been such a long, terrible off season. It's just been so boring. But I'm so looking forward to this season. I'm looking forward to doing it, chatting more with you, Luke. I really appreciate coming on your shows. I was thinking about this here, and I think the Greeks had a term for you. You're like what they used to call the siren. I'm sailing by on my little boat, or I'm sat in my chair, and then I'm listening to you on your shows. I hear the voice, and it attracts me to the rocks, onto the destruction, and it pulls me in, and that's what you are. But I will forever love you for it. So don't ever change.
I appreciate it. My goal is to always give people raw truth when it comes to this team, and I can also give it to you from all sides. My goal now is to understand, hey, there's ways we can do it. See, I believe that we can't talk about how they're going to lose all the time. We can't talk about how they're going to win all the time. You need to be able to tell me, how do you see them losing these games or winning these games, or what do they need to do to prevent losses and wins? They're going to lose some games that they shouldn't lose, and they're going to win games that they should not win. Starting with week 1, they should definitely win that game. But, me and Dan will get into that later. And starting off with the other part of it, I want to give you true, direct facts about it. So, again, it's a vibe thing for me today. I was in a good vibe. But, yeah. People, you know me. I can't end the show unless I do it on a positive note. I want to thank Dan Talks for showing up, every single person who came in and rocked with me. I want to thank Anthony for coming in and showing up and showing some love. Because y'all don't know it, but I guarantee you it's late as shit where Anthony is at right now. Anthony, what time is it?
Oh, man.
It's 10 to midnight.
There it is, gentlemen, and he's always supportive. So him and Matt and everybody, man, everybody just they show up, man. I gotta hit my man Scott up. It's been some hip hop music. I gotta get in touch bases with him on, because I wanted to get his opinion on what he thought about it. That dude puts me to shame about hip hop. This dude is a historian. But today, people, let me give you my positive quote. It's very simple. I don't know who said this, but it was spot on. In the gym, the weights doesn't get easier to lift. They don't get lighter. You just got stronger. In life, events don't get easier to handle. You become better equipped to handle them. You just got stronger. Keep growing. People, this one I needed it for this morning because I found myself in a position today being tested by so many people, clients and coworkers alike. And I told myself that everything that I've done to get to this point, to be successful, to be good at what I'm doing, came from the work I put into it. And some of you are looking for easy outs. Some of you want to go to the gym, walk in and walk out, and expect to lose weight. Some of you want to go into the gym and walk in and walk out and expect to get stronger. But the reality is this. You only get stronger when you put in the work. You only get better when you put in the time. And if you find yourself in a position where you're wondering why things ain't changed, it's probably because you need more work to be done for it to be different. If you're sick and tired of the people that you're talking to taking advantage of you, you might need to change the people around you. Put in the work to get to know some new people who can enlighten you and lift you up in your praise and in your glory and in your happiest times of success. If you find yourself challenging the things that you didn't want to challenge, like I wanted to buy that house, but you didn't put in no research on how to buy houses or house buying processes and things like that, don't look for the results. When it tells you to keep growing, it's telling you to keep growing because you are never a finished product. The most perfect specimens are the specimens who find ways to evolve. And your evolution has just begun. The very moment you realize that every single thing that came easy to you only came easy because you put in the work. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a great show. I'm going to be back at it with another piece on how to build success for this season. Hope to see you all there. And as always, don't be no chump. Please do your research.